Are you aspiring to be a real estate broker? Well, then this episode is for you. We're going to talk about the top tips about being a real estate broker that you could use no matter where you are in the world. Welcome back to the Property Venture Podcast, a show where we are dedicated to offering educative information to our listeners all over the world. I'm your host, Giancarlo Carangelo, joined by Anthony Lodja.
Thanks, Giancarlo. And thanks again, guys, for supporting us and for watching.
Tuning into another episode
of PVP.
So let's get into it. We've been in real estate I've been in real estate myself over 10 years now. I started my career as a real estate broker before transitioning into property management and becoming an investor.
Yeah.
Anthony has a finance background who then came into real estate as a broker.
Yeah, 7 years ago, basically, I made that transition. I was still in finance, still in sales and negotiations, and I continue to do real estate till this day.
And this episode is all about the top tips and the advice that we could offer to aspiring real estate brokers based on our personal experience. And like I said, no matter where you are listening in the world, you could apply these tips to your practice.
Yeah, basically our mistakes don't have to be your mistakes. And trust me, we've made mistakes.
I made a lot of mistakes. So let's just talk a little bit about like the role of a real estate broker. Obviously, obtaining a real estate license varies no matter where you are, which city, which country. There's going to be certain steps you have to go through. Like for us, for example, we had to take a course and then write a licensing exam. And even after being licensed, we had to maintain those licenses with, continuing education by obtaining a certain amount of credits. And like I said, wherever you are in the world, it varies, but there are certain procedures that you need to follow.
I think it's similar, to any sort of profession. So if you're a CPA, if you're an inspector, if you're whatever you do in life in a sense, and you have some sort of background like an engineer or whatnot, you still need to do continuous education. And it's the same thing in real estate. We take a course that's a year long, in Quebec at least, and it varies for basically everywhere in the world. There are states that it takes you not even a day to get your real estate broker license. So,
and countries that you don't even need a license to sell real estate, like for example, Dominican Republic, which I got into recently, you don't actually need a real estate license to sell property in the Dominican. So I myself can sell a property that's located in Dominican to an investor that's in Texas, and all without a license.
And like, to be super clear, like just because you're doing these courses, it doesn't mean you have some sort of advanced knowledge in real estate, because the harsh reality is we've learned the most when on the road.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dealing with people, dealing with investors, dealing with, certain properties. That's when you really learn.
Yeah. Sweat equity, guys, trial and tribulation, right? There is no education like a good old fashioned mistake.
Yes.
Right? And the only way you pay. Yeah. And the only way you're going to learn is if it costs you money. So this is what we want to do. We want to help inform you guys about this. So, if you're out there and you're listening and you want to be a real estate broker, okay, I think that the number one thing that you should do is choose a market. Now, what does that mean? When people hear choose a market, they're going to think about location. That's not what I'm saying. Choose a market. Do you want to specialize in selling, multifamily properties? Do you want to specialize in selling, like some people, new development condos? Or do you want to specialize with being a buyer's agent and just representing buyers looking to purchase property? Choosing a market allows you to stay focused on one course of action. Now, let's break down the word focused. Follow one course until successful. So what are we saying here? Don't spread yourself too thin, right? Choosing a market, whether your market's going to be multifamily or pre-sale construction, stick to it, and really become an expert in that market, because people will trust you more. If you're the new development guy, people will trust you more when buying a new development versus the guy who's selling single family homes, who's now going to sell a new development. People potentially will not trust you or take your word as an expert.
Well, also just do what you like.
Yeah.
Right. The things that drive you, that, you wake up in the morning and you're super excited. So like, I know we started with multifamily.
Yeah.
And it's something that for myself personally, with a finance background, it made a lot of sense. I enjoy investments. I think the best way to achieve financial freedom is through real estate. And why not spread that?
Exactly.
Right. And the unique thing about investing in multifamily is that when you start helping people find a home, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Because you've seen all those rough inspections,
And there's a difference. Like, look, if you're out there and you're a real estate broker helping, buyers look for a property to raise a family. And that's a whole different type of transaction versus somebody who's, you're going to help purchase a sixplex or an eightplex, right? Because the buyers who are looking to start a family in a home, they're buying based on emotions. Okay. And they need to envision themselves in the property, their family.
Feeling.
They need to have certain criteria like a backyard, bedrooms. It's a feeling.
A garage.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you're working with investors looking to purchase multifamily property, these guys are all business.
Show me the numbers.
The numbers, right? The numbers. So let's get into it. What tip could you offer our listeners who want to become a real estate broker, Anthony?
You have to enjoy it. Why do I say that? You're going to be spending evenings and weekends working.
Yeah.
The reality is your clients, they work during the day. They're doing their 9-to-5 job. They're busy. They're going to be calling you 6, 7, 8 p.m. at night, sometimes even 11.
Yeah.
We have stories about that.
I had a client call me at 2 a.m. once.
That's it. Yeah. Many times. Actually, same client many times.
Yeah.
So you have to love it, right? Because you're going to be working when everyone else is playing.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, another piece of advice that I would like to offer, and guys, everything that I'm offering here is based on my experience. Choose a location. So choose a geographical location where you are going to look to build your business. Now, why? Well, let's say you're a listing broker and you're looking to acquire listings in a specific property. Generally, it's the property that you live in or the location you live in or the location that you know most about. To build your brand, to build your business, to build your name, you need to be present in that location, in that area. People need to see your signs. People need to see your marketing, your advertising. And you're also, once again, just like choosing the markets, you're not spreading yourself too thin. Now, keep in mind, when I started my career as a real estate broker, I did anything and everything. And I was running, up, down, and all around, and it cost me a lot of time, cost me a lot of money.
That's the quickest way to learn. I know it's rough in the beginning, but it's the quickest way to
learn. It is. Yeah. I mean, but, imagine driving an hour away from your house for a listing presentation that you're not going to get, or for a buyer that's never going to buy, because these things do happen, right? So if you choose a location, in which most brokers and agents really do, they choose the location, that they live in or that they know best. They build, they do two things there. They build their brand presence in that location so all the residents know them.
They host fundraisers.
Right?
Exactly. They sponsor the local soccer team, the local hockey team. They get really involved in the community.
And they save money on gas. So like, Anthony, what, how important is networking for our listeners here? How important is networking in the real estate world?
How many times do we say this? But your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So it's that important.
Definitely.
If you're not networking, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not spreading your name, unfortunately, it's going to be really hard to be successful.
Yeah. And people, do business with people they know. So if you're not present on social media, if you're not present or active in the market, these are all things that you need to work on if you want to be active as a real estate broker and, really amplify those transactions.
Yeah.
Right. And networking, go to local fundraisers, go to local events. I know certain agents that do, gift baskets during Christmas or, pumpkin giveaways or anything in their area, whether it's soccer tournaments with the families and everything, just to get their brand presence out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And what about navigating the market, right? Understanding, right, how to advise your clients to invest in a particular market, whether or not you're specialized in it or not. What's your advice for that?
Well, again, that goes down to choosing your location and choosing your market, right? If you're in a specific location selling a specific product, then chances are you're educating yourself specifically on that product in that location. So you're going to know it like the back of your head. It's going to be second nature, kind of like breathing, right? And if you're spread too thin, for example, you're a real estate broker that selling any property that makes money in any location that you get the business, you might not always be up to tune with what's going on in that location in a specific market, right?
So much to know.
Yeah, so much, too much. Your brain cannot retain that information. So by choosing a market, whether if you're selling single family homes in your neighborhood that you've lived for the past 20 years, chances are you're going to become an expert on the single family homes in that area, right? So you're going to know the stats because you're going to be studying the stats every morning, or you should be at least as a real estate broker. And you're going to really know your stuff about that area. So when someone asks you a question, you could answer it off the top of your head, and you don't necessarily need to go and fish for the answers and elsewhere.
And you bring up a really good point about stats and knowing your area. That's the best thing about being a real estate broker, is the fact that we have access to these amazing tools that even if you are in an area that you're not completely familiar with, we have the tools, we have the solds, we have the counts, we have the actives that we can easily make a market analysis, right? Because knowing the price per door in any region that you're working in is super valuable.
Yeah, definitely. If a client calls you and asks you how much does a 10-unit apartment building go for in this area, if you know the area, you know the market, you know your location, you're able to answer that question right off the top of your head. You don't need to research it, right? So that positions you as an expert in your field.
But even the research is not tremendously difficult as a real estate broker because of the tools we have. Right. So that's another huge advantage of being a real estate broker, of getting involved, of maybe wanting to invest in your own properties as a real estate broker.
Yeah, exactly. So I myself, for example, when I got into this business, I came in blind.
Yeah.
I had to learn the business. I had to learn a lot of things on my own. I didn't have any guide. I didn't have any, like some people are fortunate to have family members already in the business, friends. I didn't have to any of that. So how important is it having a mentor or someone to show you the ropes in the real estate industry? And what should they look for in a mentor?
So I was fortunate enough because I had you.
Yeah.
So 7 years ago, when I was doing my commercial real estate license, I met Giancarlo. And Giancarlo was the one who really pushed me and decided to say, hey, come work with me. I already made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
You don't need to be making those mistakes.
I'll save you time and money.
That's it. And he definitely saved me time and money.
Yeah.
So having a mentor is super important. Like even if, whatever job you want to do in life.
Anything.
Yeah. Find yourself a mentor. Someone you trust, someone you respect. And I'm telling you, people want to share information. Like we've spoken about this even with Jerry.
Yeah.
Right? Jerry's an investor. He's a real estate broker. He wants to share information with you. He said it all the time. Hit me up on Instagram. I'm here to help. So if you're really interested and you find someone online that you think is awesome, hit them up.
Yeah. I think, having a mentor, having someone to guide you in this business is very important. In my first year, I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a guide, and I didn't have a business, right? And in the second year, I decided to work with someone who's been in the business for 10 years. And sure enough, I, tenfold the transactions that I've done the previous year just because I had someone showing me the ropes. But when it comes to a mentor or someone who's coaching you or teaching you, there's certain qualities and attributes that this person needs to have, right? So they need to lead by example, not by authority, right? So I've worked with people who taught me because they wanted to teach me. And then I've worked with people who didn't necessarily want to teach me, but wanted to overwork me and underpay me, So I got the best of both worlds, and I understood what I needed for a mentor versus not, right? And so someone who leads by example, not by authority, I think is number key. What would you look for in a mentor?
Someone who's accepting, someone who's patient, someone who's willing to take the time and to show you the ropes. That's all it is. Someone who's passionate about what they're doing, because that's going to translate.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely translate.
Let's move on to maybe a more fun, more light part of this podcast. All right. So Giancarlo, what was your first deal like as a broker? Did anything, because typically the first deals either go horribly wrong
or
they go, they're usually funny.
Yeah. Well, I didn't necessarily have a terrible experience on my first deal as a real estate broker. It's going to sound cliche, but I was working with a first-time home buyer, and if you're an aspiring real estate broker, you might see all these memes floating around about the buyer's dad, right? Yeah, it's exactly what I had. I had a first-time home buyer who was well under the influence of his dad, who, had a portfolio of properties nonetheless, but perhaps it was a little bit outdated with his tactics as he was an older gentleman and everything. And for so long, I worked with this buyer for about 11 months, and it could take some time when you work with buyers. Okay. And I worked with this buyer for about 11 months, And I was trying to obviously work with the buyer, with the client, because he was the person paying, and purchasing. And then I realized that the father was a heavy influence on the client's decision because of the experience. And well, let's face it, there's a bit of a, image that real estate brokers have, unfortunately. And, they're not always trusted, especially by an older gentleman who has multiple portfolios. And this buyer in particular was missing out opportunity after opportunity and just completely disregarding my advice. And then it clicked on me. I'm not selling the buyer, I'm selling the father.
So know your client.
Yeah, know your client. And when I realized that I'm selling the father, I think we closed in less than 2 months at that point, because I realized I was selling the father. And even when they purchased the property, the father was a little skeptical about the area. And I'm very much a vision person. I could see the potential that most people can. And in this specific area, they didn't really see the potential. And I said, guys, this is a great area. And the father goes, well, usually, I believe in buying the worst property in the best area, but this case is the best property in the worst area. And I said, don't worry about it. Your value in this property is going to double in less than 10 years. Sure enough, they bought the property and the value doubled in less than 10 years. Yeah. So that was my experience for sure. So Anthony, if you weren't in real estate, what would be your dream job?
My God. If I could do anything in this world, I'd be a golfer. And there's no question about it.
Pretty much are. You spend a lot of time on the golf course during summer. I don't know. Pretty much are. Maybe not by profession, but I just
get paid for it. But
you just don't get paid for it. Exactly.
Oh, God.
All right. So let's talk about this one. I think this is going to be an interesting, fun question here. What's the craziest or the most unique property story that you have?
Okay. I got a pretty cool one. Okay. So we're visiting with these clients and they're first-time home buyers. Very professional, awesome, financially conservative people. They both have 2 amazing jobs, a nice high pre-approval. And we have been searching for them for months.
Yeah.
We finally find this duplex. This is in the South Shore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go and visit it. It's on lockbox, meaning, right, they just, the broker leaves like a sort of little safe and you put the code in, you take out the keys. So we're visiting the upstairs first because it's completely empty. It's a duplex, 5.5 and 5.5 on the main floor. It looks great. Almost looks too good to be true. The price is quite affordable. So we're kind of not understanding what is happening. Are they pricing to, right, get a lot of competition? And well, we go to the main floor. They looked at me, they said, Anthony, this is the one. Seriously, they're like, this is the one. This is the property. We're going to live here. Awesome. But wait. Yeah. So I had a bunch of keys in my hands. And as we're going outside, we noticed that there's access to the basement.
Yeah.
So my client's like, well, can we go in the basement? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's see if one of the keys work, right? So trying each key. Finally, one of the keys unlocks. Cool. I can't get the door open. It's jammed, stuck. So I get up the stairs. I said, okay, let me see. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what's that. My client just bashes the door in. It's as if it hasn't been opened in years. It's pitch dark. And I tell my clients, I'm trying to be brave. So I tell my clients, let me go in first. I've seen some crazy things. I see some animals. Let me take care of this, guys. Don't worry, So I get in, I touch in the light switch.
Doesn't work.
Typical story. So what do? Reach into your pocket.
Flashlights.
Get my iPhone out. Put on the flash. And that's all I do is I raise my camera up. I turn my body to the right side. And that's all I see. That's all we see are cinder blocks. And in each cinder block, there's this
weird drawings.
Remember this pink, in yellow.
Stick figures, I remember.
Stick figures, circles, crosses. In the middle is a sort of pit that looks like there was a fire in it. It was one of the most bizarre things. I could tell you that my clients grabbed a hold of me and they told me, Louis, you're going to have to cut this part out. They said, let's get the out of here. I have never, ever seen them swear, ever. Yeah. So it was quite bizarre.
I remember that day actually, because I was driving and you called me in shock. And, there's always a certain, tone to somebody's voice. It's like they seen a ghost. You called me in shock and he explained to me the story. And the first thing I said was what?
He's like, did you take a picture?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I would have taken
I want to get out of there now.
Yeah, I would have taken pictures.
And then what did you tell me?
Exactly
Okay, where is it? Where is it?
Where is it? I want to come see.
He's like, God, I just left Longueuil. I can't go back for this.
Yeah.
But there was hundreds of signs all over the wall. It's as if a little kid painted. But like, it was so done in such a structure. It was super, super creepy. Yeah. So that's definitely my creepiest story.
That's pretty interesting story. It's not every day you see something like that, right? But yeah, interesting. So guys, just to sum it all up a little bit, if you're an aspiring real estate broker, what you really need to do is choose a market, choose a location, right? Network, educate yourself, become an expert. Do not spread yourself too thin, right? Do not spread yourself too thin. So, and another important thing is choose the right brokerage. Some are focused on marketing, some are focused on training. Find out what works for you and then just go all in, and we promise that you won't regret your decision,
So I'm a firm believer in doing what you love. If you don't like doing it, you shouldn't be doing it at all.
No.
So make sure every day you love it because like I said, you're going to be working evenings and weekends. You're going to be away from your family a lot. There's going to be parties and you're unfortunately not going to be there. So make sure you love it. And like Giancarlo said, choosing an agency is super important.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? Because you could pay nothing, but you're also going to get nothing.
Yeah.
And you could pay the world and also get basically nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So choosing an agency is definitely our top tip to close off this episode, guys. So once again, we want to thank you for listening and tuning in to another episode this week.
Yeah, guys, follow us, like, subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify.
All right, guys, until next time.